Now, let us wrap up today's class with the last essential idea concerning the interest rate. The interest rate is perhaps the most important price in a market economy, because it is the price which guides entrepreneurs, consumers, savers and investors, and coordinates their behavior. In the market, the interest rate embodies the rate of time preference, the extent to which we feel a pressing need to consume rather than to postpone consumption. A low price of present goods in terms of future goods means that the rate of time preference is low. To put it another way, people are readily willing to save. Other things being equal, a low interest rate means that savings are quite plentiful in society. A high interest rate means the opposite. It means that on the whole there is a great demand for present goods in that society. The present is valued much more highly than the future, relatively speaking. That is, fewer present goods are supplied. People are less willing to sacrifice immediate consumption. We could say that other things being equal, a high interest rate means that in that society, people do not save very much. Entrepreneurs always have in their portfolios, so to speak, a number of potential entrepreneurial projects, and these can be either comprehensive or incremental. A project might consist of starting a company ex novo, or simply, in a very small company, leasing an additional machine, buying a new program, or buying a new computer and hiring 2 workers to create a new line. So, entrepreneurs are constantly gauging possibilities. If I were to launch that entrepreneurial project, what accounting profit would I make? They make their estimates and do their calculations. They are not reckless people. They say to themselves, well, I could carry out this new project to expand my textile factory and create a line of skirts. I have done my calculations, and I think that if I put in 1 million euros, I could make 70,000 euros. Should I take the plunge or not? The entrepreneur looks at the gross interest rate in the credit market, 9%, 90,000. Whoa, hold on, I'm not going to do it. Time to rein in the runaway horse. The project is not advisable. It is not in the entrepreneur's interest to launch it, since he expects to make a profit of 7% on it, and yet the project would require him to invest money that could bring in 9% interest if he simply lent it. An interest rate of 9% is relatively high, and it indicates that society's savings in the form of present goods are in short supply. And these limited savings must be rationed, and care must be taken to put them toward only the most profitable projects. It would be a very grave error to devote society's scarce savings to unprofitable projects that do not bring in enough to cover even the implicit interest rate component. So, entrepreneurs mull over the projects that have occurred to them and come up with new ideas. This is what entrepreneurs do. They make plans and imagine new projects. They have plenty of projects in mind, and they undertake only those they believe will be the most profitable, and earn them, at the end of the period, accounting profits which exceed the gross market interest rate by a certain percentage. And they do not undertake any of the projects they believe would earn them less profit, because they should not undertake them, for there are not enough saved real resources to launch them, and it would be a serious entrepreneurial error to do so. It would mean devoting society's extremely scarce resources in the form of present goods to unprofitable lines of production, when other lines exist which consumers value much more highly. Now, what happens if society suddenly decides to save more? If a sharp increase in the supply of present goods suddenly occurs? Because we decide to save more and consume less, as is now occurring in Spain. If suddenly there is a much larger supply of potatoes, the price of potatoes falls. If suddenly there is a much larger supply of present goods, the price of present goods falls. In other words, the interest rate falls. And when the interest rate falls, let us imagine it falls from 9% to 5%, because there is a large increase in saving in society. What happens? What message does this send to entrepreneurs? What message do they receive? Among the investment projects in his portfolio, the entrepreneur in our example has the creation of a line of skirts, and according to his calculations, he would make a profit of 7%. When the interest rate is at 9%, he holds back. He does not take the plunge, because he would incur entrepreneurial losses. But if the interest rate drops to 5%, then his 1 million euros would earn him only 50,000 were he to lend it. In contrast, if he launches the line of skirts and sells them, he will obtain 70,000. When the interest rate drops due to an increase in the supply of present goods, then all the investment projects which were not profitable at the higher interest rate, and which would have a rate of profit higher than the new lower interest rate, become profitable. Entrepreneurs say, well, now this project is profitable. I will take the plunge. And with what savings do they launch their projects? With precisely the new savings which society has supplied, and which have pushed down the interest rate. What is the moral of the story? The interest rate is the market price of present goods in terms of future goods, and is the essential sign which indicates to entrepreneurs which investment projects they should undertake, and which they should not. And now I ask you the following question, for you all have intelligent faces, and you are concentrating hard, and you will understand right away. What happens if the following situation arises? What happens if, in the absence of any increase in society's saving, without any rise in the quantity of present goods, the interest rate is manipulated and artificially reduced through a process of credit expansion triggered by fractional reserve banking? In other words, what if society does not decide to save more, but nevertheless interest rates are artificially reduced for a time, as if saving had increased, when in fact it has not? How is it possible to artificially reduce interest rates? It is quite simple. Loans are created from nothing, and backed by deposits which are mere accounting entries in banks' books. And to enable people to accept these loans, the interest rate must be lowered, at least for a period of time. What happens then? Entrepreneurs rush to invest, thinking that many projects are profitable, and that savings are available to permit them to bring those investments to completion. However, such conditions do not exist. When the origin of the process lies in artificial credit expansion stemming from the exercise of fractional reserve banking and the artificial reduction of interest rates, entrepreneurs are being led to commit widespread investment errors. They very optimistically embark on projects which they believe will be profitable, and sooner or later, harsh reality shows them it was all an unfortunate error. This is precisely the theory of the cycle, which we will be studying in depth.